Make up mine. Fight.
Subclasses are one of the Team Fortress 2 community's favorite things about the game. The concept of equipping a certain weapon or combination of weapons that completely turn your class of choice on their heads. Oh, do you not want to rev up and move slowly as Heavy? Boom, Fat Scout. Do you not want to use explosives as Demoman? Boom, Demo Knight. Do you not want to build a full nest as Engineer? Boom, Therapy. For real though, subclasses and the existence of them are a huge part of TF2's casual appeal, and are one that I've been pretty uncharitable to in my past videos. I've mentioned a few times that I generally enjoy playing classes optimally or as intended more than indulging subclasses, but that ends today. It's time to give some of TF2's most iconic subclass facilitating weapons their dues. In this long overdue weapon subcategories episode, we'll be discussing 3 weapons for 3 classes that fundamentally change how they're played and enable a full subclass playstyle. Are they just goofy gimmicks at best or worth their weight in effectiveness? Let's find out. I want to stress that we'll be generally discussing the weapons themselves and how they figure into each class and subclass, and not getting into the bells and whistles of the subclasses or their individual nuances. All that said, let's roll.
Welcome to the family, son.
So we're going to be starting this video off on a little bit of controversial ground, for me at least. I've made it no secret in my past videos that I am a heavy main. It's like the main thing that people know about me apart from having a weird voice. And as a heavy main, I've been a staunch supporter of the sandwich superiority regime. In both jokes and serious commentary, I've had less than kind things to say about heavy shotguns and their usefulness to him as a class. I just enjoy playing with the sandwich more. I value the sustainability and support of the sandwich more than the extra damage of the shotguns. What can I say? The heart wants what it wants, and in this case, I want food. That said, people have been very adamant to call my bluff, giving me a laundry list of both valid and invalid reasons to run a shotgun on heavy that I had not fully considered until having them brought to my attention. Also, apparently Uncle Dane recently made a video hyping up shotgun heavy, which I actually on God didn't know about until Big Joey mentioned it to me, because little known fact about me, I'd rather do many painful and embarrassing things than watch other people's TF2 videos. But yeah, seems like a better time than ever to reevaluate my stance on shotgun heavy. And when it comes to shotgun heavy, you'd be hard pressed to find a better option to bring than the family business. This is definitely one of TF2's more low-key weapons. Outside of being the Fat Scout gun, this is a heavy exclusive unlockable shotgun that most players don't tend to seriously consider due to its generally boring stat lineup and stiff competition in heavy secondary slot. I feel like the only time you ever really see people using this thing are when a group of like 6 heavies rush to point, all using it as a meme tool. A real blitzkrieg of overweight gunfighters. I've personally never been terribly impressed by the family business myself, but I've also barely used it outside of fringe Fat Scout sessions on like 2 Fort and Hightower. So to start off this video about subclass weapons, let's take an earnest look at the family business as a TF2 weapon and not as a meme. It is heavy's only class-specific damage dealing secondary after all, so I'm more than ready to be proven wrong about my prior view on it. The family business is an unlockable secondary weapon for heavy, a pristine pump-action shotgun with a retractable stock. This weapon's primary attributes are its ability to fire a lot and very fast at the cost of damage per shot. It loads an additional 2 shots in its clip compared to the stock shotgun, granting it a total of 8 shots before needing to reload. It also fires 15% faster, allowing it to repeatedly hammer enemies with frequent punches of burst damage. As its only trade-off, this weapon deals 15% less damage than the stock shotgun, putting its base damage at around 50 per shot. When accounting for shooting and reload times, this results in the stock shotgun having a slightly higher DPS with perfect accuracy, but the family business's larger number of shots allows for more leeway with less than perfect accuracy. Right off the bat, the big question is whether or not the family business is better or worse than the stock shotgun for heavy, and honestly, I find it to be a pretty even fight. The stock shotgun comes out swinging with a slightly higher DPS with perfect aim, but the vast majority of players will not be able to land every shot, and may in fact find the family business's more forgiving clip size and shot frequency to be a reasonable set of trade-offs for the lower damage. I'll leave this great write-up I found about this exact subject in the description if you're interested. But yeah, the family business functions as a pretty comfortable side grade to the stock shotgun that only begins to falter at inhuman levels of accuracy. Whichever you're more comfortable with and more consistently able to land shots with is the one that you should use, which is how Saxton Hale intended it. No, the real competition for the family business is how it fares against heavy's other secondaries, the edible ones. Personally, I do enjoy using the sandwich or second banana more even after recording this video, as again, I value the self-sustain and team support more than the additional damage damage, but I'll be damned, I did come around a lot on the family business after recording this video, and do find it to be really fun in the right situations. One thing that I will hold against it is that it really sucks at first to be reliant on health packs as heavy, as his slow movement speed makes consistently reaching them at low health kind of risky at best, and I was definitely missing the guaranteed 300 health heal in my pocket at first while recording this video. But once I got adjusted and found myself playing more to the family business's strengths as a weapon, things definitely improved a bit. There are two sides to the family business coin, when you're using it as a pure fat scout weapon and completely ignoring your minigun, and when you're using it as an augment to your minigun. And if I must be brutally honest for the sake of this video, I gotta say, I still fucking hate the first one. Look, I'm sorry guys, but when I was playing pure fat scout for this video, I was just straight up not having a good time. Y'all out here in my comments who main fat scout must have stronger constitutions than me, because I can very generously describe this subclass as not for me. I get it, you move faster as heavy and can still do damage, you can shoot people without revving up, it's less committal, you can leverage your large health pool, I understand. But literally every single time I secured a kill playing this way, I just found myself bemoaning how much easier and more effective it would have been to just shred those same enemies with my minigun. The 50 to 75 damage per shot with the requirement to carefully aim and land each one was just not worth it compared to the over 600 sustain the class is equally capable of by just pressing 1 on the keyboard. Keep in mind that I have several hundred hours playing traditional heavy and that the minigun and sandwich are my preferred weapon choices, so I'm not exactly the kind of guy that the Fat Scout playstyle really speaks to, and that's fine. I understand if you like it, but again, I'll give this subclass a very generous not my thing. No, I found that the real enjoyment of the family business comes from using it as an augment to the minigun. Bear in mind, Heavy does not have an item like the Wee Booties for Demoman. He doesn't have an option that takes away his primary to buff his other weapons. You will literally never be without your minigun if you're playing heavy and casual, unless you meticulously drain your ammo at the start of each life, and if you're doing that, you should probably be less concerned about what shotgun you're running and more concerned about seeking serious mental help. Once I realized this and started using the family business to facilitate the minigun heavy playstyle, I finally did the Danny DeVito meme and really found things clicking. My preferred strategy was as follows. Was I in a hot zone of the map? Was I in a situation where I could reasonably expect to engage multiple enemies? Was I on the front lines? Then it was minigun time. On the flip side, was I moving? Was I repositioning? Was I running to or from a key area? Was I on the flank or susceptible to being flanked? In those cases, it was family business time. For all my grumbling about not finding pure Fat Scout fun, I can 100% vouch for the family business's strength as a fallback tool for cases where you may be caught off guard or engaged unexpectedly. For a long time, I only mentally internalized heavy shotguns as fight enders for when you ran out of minigun ammo, and didn't really consider using them that often due to heavy not running out of minigun ammo that often. This was a key logical shortcoming on my part, as shotgun heavy's true strength is as a fight opener. When an enemy gets to jump on a heavy, they tend to expect a second long rev before the heavy can fire back and put them in serious danger. This is how most classes are able to kill him before he can defend himself. So if you're ever in a situation where you may reasonably find yourself caught off guard with your pants down, having the family business primed and ready can be a great adaptation check for your enemies. Those scouts, demos, or soldiers that expect a quick stomp before you can rev up will quickly find themselves up shit creek without a paddle when you start unexpectedly hammering them with family business rounds. Additionally, I actually didn't find aiming with the family business to be too tricky. Here's a little TF2 life hack that I learned. If you hold M1, you will shoot. This means that, by all accounts, you can track with the family business or really any other single shot weapon in the game. Just lock the fuck in, hold M1, and focus on tracking the enemy's movements like you would with any heavy minigun, and you'll find your shots connecting with a consistency that can be pretty staggering at first. I don't know if this is considered controversial or brainless in any way. I've certainly heard some people complain about other similar aiming methods, so I want to reiterate that if you're at all opinionated about the way other people adjust to aiming in a video game that are not cheating, your mother probably smoked while she was pregnant with you. To me, this is much easier and more consistent than treating each individual shot as a make or break Hail Mary that has to be independently lined up and clicked. You should try it, it's pretty neat. Lastly, the family business's damage output actually isn't too big of a deal if you can connect a good number of shots. If you're frequently missing, then you'll probably wind up pretty frustrated at the lack of pure killing power afforded by your 51 damage meat shots, but once you start landing your bullets consistently, I think you'll find that most lighter classes aren't really capable of standing up. Heavy has a lot of health, and you can oftentimes leverage that health pool with this weapon's attack speed and clip size to comfortably outpace enemies in the great DPS race. While I don't often find myself going on crazy kill streaks of the family business due to mainly using it as a fallback tool, I was pleasantly surprised by some of the fights I won with it. I've said it once and I'll say it again, pure damage isn't everything in TF2. The only real shortcoming I found of this entire playstyle is, again, being reliant on health packs and not being able to support teammates. It felt a bit Flog-esque. Only being able to stand there and shrug when a nearby teammate or medic was on death's door desperately seeking a sandwich. I mean, I guess I could shoot you. But yeah, as someone who spent the bulk of my time playing heavy with a lunchbox item in my secondary slot, this definitely took some adjustment. But I wouldn't call this a straight up failing of the family business or heavy shotguns, just an alternative playstyle with its own strengths and weaknesses. It wouldn't be fair of me to criticize this gun for not being able to heal, while also ignoring that the sandwich isn't capable of outputting damage. So all things considered, have my opinions on the family business and shotgun heavy as a whole changed at all? Well, kind of. I'm still unfortunately not a fan of pure Fat Scout. I don't think I'll ever find enjoyment in deliberately handicapping myself for the funny, especially when I know that I have a perfectly good minigun at all times. But to this weapon's credit, I did find a lot of fun in using it as intended, as a secondary damage option to cover the minigun's weaknesses. It's almost like that's what a secondary weapon is designed to do or something. I can definitely see myself trying this playstyle again, which is more than some other stuff I've talked about in the weapon subcategory series can say. Do you really think I've used the airstrike or man melter since talking about them? So consider this a win for shotgun heavies everywhere. I walked away from this video respecting and enjoying heavy's damage dealing secondaries more than I did going into it. They have merit. I may still prefer the sandwich in general, but I can see your point of view now, and y'all have convinced me. Please leave me alone.
I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
Ah, the Gunslinger, perennial TF2 community punching bag. For those of you who weren't around for it, back in the earlier days of the online TF2 scene, the Gunslinger consistently ranked among the general player base's most hated weapons in the game. This was primarily fueled by a constant smear campaign against it by a certain vintage TF2ber, but to be fair, this weapon's older design was certainly not doing it any favors. For a while, this was the subclass weapon in TF2. It changed engineer so much for so little, and was one of the most contentious weapons in the game as a result. Before a steady stream of reworks and changes in the mid-2010s, it was not uncommon to get screamed out of servers for using this thing. While a good degree of its reputation can be blamed squarely on one person, it would also be disingenuous to call its older design healthy. But, to be fair, it doesn't have that design anymore, and in its current state, I find the Gunslinger to be one of the more layered and interesting singular unlocks in TF2. Also, I bought a strange one, so you better goddamn believe you're gonna listen to me talk about it. The Gunslinger is an unlockable achievement melee weapon for Engineer, a metallic robo-hand that takes the place of the Engineer's normal gloved right hand. This weapon's primary attribute is that equipping it replaces the Engineer's typical upgradable level 3 sentry with the more disposable combat Mini-Sentry. This tiny terror boasts the upsides of building, turning, and shooting faster than a normal level 1, on top of being smaller and easier to hide, and only costing 100 metal to build, at the cost of dealing less damage, having only 100 health, and neither being upgradable nor dropping any metal for the Engineer when destroyed. Additionally, having the Gunslinger equipped grants the Engineer an additional 25 health for a total of 150, and while it can't randomly crit, landing 3 consecutive attacks on enemies without letting go of mouse 1 will always deal a guaranteed critical hit on the third punch. All in all, this bolsters the Engineer's survivability and aggressiveness while nerfing his typical defensive utility. So, fun fact, prior to the gunmetal update in mid-2015, the Gunslinger and the combat Mini-Sentry were incredibly overtuned. If you think they're annoying now, you'd probably have uninstalled in the early 2010s. Currently, Mini-Sentry start out at 50% HP while building and have to be wrench boosted to reach their maximum construction speed, and don't drop metal gibs when destroyed. Before 2015, however, not only did they always build at their maximum speed, start out at 100% health, and automatically heal while building, but they also dropped metal when killed, making them ridiculously spammable and facilitating the very infamous strategy of just endlessly plopping them down in enemies' faces as they doggedly tried to work through them. This was admittedly super annoying, and Valve was right to nerf it. This old version is where most of the modern day vitriol for the Gunslinger comes from. However, considering that most of these aspects were changed close to a decade ago, I think it's worth analyzing the Gunslinger for what it is and not what it was. And as for what it is, I think it's a pretty damn cool unlock. For starters, before getting into anything to do with the Mini-Sentry, this thing's base level stats and animations are pretty cool. Bringing the Engineer up to the medic's base health value is an incredibly useful bonus for equipping one unlock, and while it doesn't cause him to cross too many important damage thresholds, it can absolutely be the linchpin that allows you to survive some very sticky situations. The niche of Battle Engineer sometimes gets criticized for just being a slower and less mobile scout, but having 150 health can easily allow you to beat these allegations. And speaking of beating, I fucking love this weapon's attack animations. While it is true, Heavy also punches enemies, his punches often feel sort of limp, kind of like weak little jabs, whereas Engineer's Gunslinger punches feel more like It is undeniably hilarious and viscerally satisfying to dome someone with a gunslinger punch, and may just be my favorite thing about the weapon. Hey there, this is Opal from the future here. I scripted this video before the summer update came out, and I had this whole section about the Gunslinger 3-punch combo mechanic not really working due to the lack of lag compensation scripted, but then Valve actually fixed this in the summer update, which alongside the gas passer thing might be the closest thing to a balance update we've gotten in TF2 in many years. So it actually works now, and I am eager to try it out more. Let me know if it works for you. Both of these stats work in unison to articulate the Gunslinger as the aggressive engineer's melee weapon of choice. The extra health and focus on melee attacking enemies makes it clear that this is a more combat and survival-oriented engineer option, and one that rejects the typical turtling engineer playstyle in favor of getting right up in enemies' faces. Full disclosure, out of every subclass we'll be discussing in this video, the Punch-Engineer is far and away my favorite one. It's just so goddamn fun to roam the map, making like Homer in that one last exit to Springfield scene. And that's not even mentioning the key trait of this weapon, which is the thing that really defines its existence: the combat Mini-Sentry. Mini-Sentries are one of the great dichotomies within TF2. When you're using these or have an engineer using them on your team, you'll probably love them and their unique brand of non-committal area denial. But when you're fighting against an especially talented Mini-Sentry using engineer, well, that'll decide whether or not you're cut out for TF2 or need to go back to Overwatch. Simply put, these things are deceptively strong in the right hands. While it is true they're not nearly as spammable as they were a decade ago, and they're physically weaker than a level 3, that does not mean they're at all useless or gimmicky. Putting a Mini-Sentry in an impactful location can be the thing that wins you a game. Imagine for a second that you're a scout, a roaming soldier, a spy running low on cloak, or some other flanker, and you've managed to adeptly sneak behind enemy lines. You're getting ready for a clean flank when suddenly you hear those accursed little beeps.
Oh, this ain't good.
The Mini-Sentry is the thing that keeps overly aggressive enemies or flankers from encroaching on your team's turf, even if it's not securing kills, and it's consistently great for softening up enemies for nearby teammates and putting the fear of God in them when it comes to pushing forward. You might be thinking, well, doesn't level 3 do that even better? And to that, I offer you the advantages of disposability and stealth. The most valuable things about Mini-Sentries are that they're small, cheap, and deadly, not unlike a razor blade stuffed Halloween candy bar. Costing only 100 metal and a few seconds to plop down, the Mini-Sentry offers so much impactful area denial for so little investment that it's no wonder they're every scout main's bane. When you've built a Mini-Sentry, you still have enough metal for either a dispenser or an entire set of teleporters, allowing you to comfortably support your team without committing to an overly resource-intensive defense. I'd personally describe the Mini-Sentry as the ultimate aggressive defense in TF2. Allowing you to adeptly close off specific areas of the map to enemies with a speed and efficiency that doesn't slow you or your team down. There is so much to gain from a single well-thought-out Mini-Sentry spot, and very little to lose from a poorly thought-out one. And considering how small and inconspicuous it is, even with that little light on top, it's very common for enemies to simply not realize where they're being shot from before it's too late. There are loads of incredibly BM and cheeky sentry spots to take advantage of in TF2. The world is your oyster with this weapon. And you may be thinking, well, isn't it super weak and easy to destroy? It only has 100 health, which means a single huntsman arrow, direct hit rocket, or pipe kills it. And yeah, that is true, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, as it leads to incredibly non-committal repositioning and a very funny combo. The disposable nature of Mini-Sentries and their habits of getting a few kills or assists before being taken out makes them a fantastic pair with the Frontier Justice. And even if you're not patrolling the map with revenge crits, a Mini-Sentry getting found and destroyed just opens up a clean opportunity to place it somewhere else unexpected. Enemies have to be on their toes and facing a competent gunslinger engineer. One of those little devils could be around any corner, in any bush, or on any roof. And even if they kill it, another one likely isn't far behind. And what's crazy too is that even with all of this talk about offense and aggressive play, the gunslinger can absolutely put work in as a defense tool as well. In situations where you have another cooperative engineer running level 3s, or in especially fast-paced games where you can't commit to a whole level 3 before the match shifts, the gunslinger can make for a fantastic short-term area denial tool or companion to your team's dedicated defenders while things calm down. I wouldn't recommend it for long-term defense if you're the only engineer on your team, but in the short term, while things are heated, it can be surprisingly effective. This really is what's on the tin, a Mini-Sentry, with all the traits you'd expect to come with that. It denies areas and keeps flankers out just as well as a level 3, just on a more compact and psychological level. All in all, the Gunslinger is one of the most multifaceted and loaded singular unlocks in TF2. If you're not using the Jag, this is the clear choice for an aggressive, forward-playing engineer who wants to be on the front lines but also still provide support to their team. And while I definitely do understand its reputation to some extent, it can be very annoying to deal with, I wouldn't say it's at all in a position anymore where it's unhealthy or bad for the game. If you're regularly getting killed by mini-sentries, just play more carefully, stick with your team, and be more observant. It may be the fun police weapon, but it's far from broken or overtuned anymore, and there's a reason you see so many people run it. The Gunslinger is a neat little weapon that brings big gameplay perks in a small package.
I love that little gun.
It's not the boots, it's the booty. I mean the person in the boots.
And our final item for this video is a little bit of a weird one, as I've never actually discussed this specific kind of item in the weapon subcategory series before. This is Demoman's Alibaba's Wee Booties, a pair of vintage Middle Eastern inspired shoes that are decidedly not a weapon. These are a type of TF2 item known as a passive weapon, or one that takes the place of a class's entire item slot in exchange for passive buffs that are always active. Instead of a weapon you need to pull out and shoot at people to do damage, you have a tool that occupies your entire item set that's bonuses are always in effect. These items tend to be pretty hit or miss in TF2, like Sniper has some real stinker ones, and I don't know how many people are big fans of the base jumper, but in the case of Demoman's shoes, these things are pretty neat, because I don't feel like we give them the dues they deserve. Let's dive in. The Alibaba's Wee Booties are an unlockable primary weapon for Demoman. A pair of steel-toed boots in the place of Demoman's normal shoes, this item's primary use case is enabling his fabled Demo Knight playstyle. At all times when these boots are equipped, Demoman gains an additional 25 health, putting his total at 200, or the same as a soldier, with an equivalent overheal maximum of 300. In addition, this item grants Demoman with a passive 10% move speed buff if he has a shield equipped in a secondary slot alongside them, making him ever so slightly faster than a sniper, engineer, or pyro. Lastly, this item doubles Demoman's turning control while charging with a shield, and restores 25% of his charge meter on kill, which equates to a cool 100% restoration with the Tide Turner equipped. So, I said at the top of this section that I don't feel like we really give the Alibaba's Wee Booties their dues, and I feel like that statement might have confused some people, because demo players generally tend to equip these things all the time. Anytime you're going to play Demo Knight, you'll likely have these or their reskin, the Bootlegger, equipped. More so than the shields or any swords, the booties are what turn you from Demoman or Hybrid Knight into Demo Knight. These funny little shoes are essential to the pure Demo Knight playstyle. The reason we don't tend to give them their dues in my eyes is because I feel like we tend to take them for granted. We just kind of equip them to play Demo Knight and forget what they actually grant the subclass. And I think that's kind of silly, because I think they give the subclass a whole lot to play with. To start us off though, I want to mention that you technically can use this item without a shield or playing Demo Knight, and that it certainly is a playstyle that exists. You are basically trading your entire primary slot for 25 more health and a pure sticky bomb oriented game plan, which I'm not personally too into and don't really see the fun in, but I'm sure someone will tell me how great and meta it actually is, and how it's amazing and competitive, and how they pub stomp with your 200 health sticky bomb launcher loadout, and how it's actually really good for sticky jumping and how I should try it. And then I'll probably send their comment in my friend server and we'll all laugh at it for a bit. But for real, I'm sure that there is some merit to the 200 health sticky only demo loadout, especially with how strong the sticky bomb launcher is, but call it a hunch that this isn't how most people use the Wee Booties. No, the actual intended use case of the Wee Booties is as the tool that enables Demo Knight. When you equip this item, you're basically flipping the switch for whether or not you'll be playing a subclass for that round. And honestly, I find all of the buffs that the Wee Booties grant to be really impactful and important for Demo Knight in both subtle and bold ways. When you're able to turn to reposition yourself while charging, that's the Wee Booties. When you're able to combo charge kills with the half Zatoichi and Tide Turner, that's the Wee Booties. When you survive a melee crit to stay in the fight for a kill, well, that's again the Wee Booties. For all the things that the shields and melee weapons do for Demo Knight, they're really allowed to flourish by the Alibaba's Wee Booties. Demo Knight did not exist as a subclass until this item was added in 2011. Anytime you're playing pure Demo Knight, you might not notice just how much the Wee Booties are helping you. Due to them being a passive item that aren't on your screen while you use them, it's easy to forget just how much they're enabling you to do. I've hyped up the Tide Turner and half Zatoichi combo a lot in previous videos, but I never considered or acknowledged that the only reason it works so well is because of this item's 25% charge on kill. The Wee Booties are also the thing that allow pure Eyelander demo to start at Demoman's normal health value. And guess what? The reason you're able to chase and secure kills on out-of-position light classes, like snipers or engineers, is because of the speed boost these boots grant. These things are like the epitome of that guy protecting the sleeping kid meme for Demo Knight, the thankless hero that really allows his subclass to to function in the way that it does. I feel like we can tend to really mix up in our heads what weapons really define Demo Knight. We tend to think it's the shields or the swords more often than not due to the fact that they're the active weapons that we see in gameplay, but you can switch those out for a different shield or sword and still be playing Demo Knight. You can run the Eyelander or the Half Zatoichi or the Claymore and still be Demo Knight. You can run the Charging Targe or Splendid Screen or Tide Turner and still be Demo Knight, but you can't switch from the Wii Booties and still be Demo Knight. Well, you can for the Bootlegger, but you get what I mean. This item is the condition to create the Demo Knight subclass. Whenever you say Demo Knight TF2 or watch an epic Demo Knight montage, it should always be remembered that the Wii Booties are the items that ultimately enable it. They're truly one of the most underappreciated yet popular weapons in TF2. All said and done, while I know this section was definitely a bit shorter and more prosy than my usual entries in this series, it really can't be said enough just how thankless the Alibaba's Wii Booties job is. Demo Knight is seen as a subclass defined by a whole loadout, a combination of items, but in reality, you really only become a Demo Knight when you equip these boots. Otherwise, you're just a hybrid knight, a fate worse than death. I feel like we should really take into account just how much this item does for demo when we talk about its subclass potential more. This is the Demo Knight item, end of story. So if you're ever going to run around the battlefield using a sword and a shield, remember to take a look down every now and then, and remember which item really is the cock of the walk. Make way for Prince Ali.
Are you fucking kidding me? This is the millisecond I popped.
And that's it. That's the video. I really don't have much of an outro plan for this one. Usually I script some kind of a ramble about how the items loosely tie together, but this time I think it's pretty obvious. They all enable subclasses and they're all pretty fun. Even the family business, which I've had historically less than charitable things to say about, I came around on after finding its true niche and using for this video. So if you're ever a stick-in-the-mud curmudgeon like I am, and tend to view subclasses as just gimmicky throws, you should really give them a try every now and again. You might have some real fun and find a new playstyle that you didn't enjoy prior. Either way, thanks, hope you all enjoyed, hope you have a fantastic day before, during, and after watching, and I'll catch you all later. Cheers!